Adam, you got anything else?
Can you take us through a mission profile for CST-100?
Sure. You know, keeping it very top level, our idea is to dock quickly. So I think you'll find that most of our plans, at least our day one target, will be to launch and dock quickly. Within the cruise day allowance. But that said, we have the ability to dock on the second day or even the third. And then NASA calls for the mission to stay docked for up to 210 days to support the crew. And then we'll undock and return to one of several West Coast landing sites. We land on land, so there's a parachute landing, followed by airbag and the final descent. And then we reuse the vehicle, so we'll get the NASA crew out, we'll send them back home, and then we'll process the top end, the CST-100, back here in the facility at C3PF, and then we'll launch probably that same vehicle 6 months later.
You're the only ones certified to land on land, right?
We are the only ones currently planning to land on land. The competition, I think, has some designs to do that. I'm not exactly sure what they'll be doing or when they're going to try it, but I know that ultimately they would like to land on land. But right now, of course, their cargo flights going to the water.
You're going to be watching these EVAs coming up closely at all, considering they're kind of related?
Yeah, they're actually going to let a couple pilots do an EVA, which is scary. For the longest time, the mission specialists told us that only they were qualified to do EVAs, so we're looking forward to seeing a couple pilots go out there. I heard it was delayed by a day. They had I think they saw something in one of the EMUs that were sent back that they wanted to take a closer look at before they would approve the EVA. So tomorrow I think is the first one of two, right?
Two or three maybe, yeah.
2 or 3 in the series, yeah. Probably should read up on them a little bit. I'm not even sure what their tasks are, but I should know.
A lot of cables, but it's all related to the IDAs going up. And,
Well, of course, the IDAs, support the new, NASA docking system, the NDS, which is an international docking standard, which is really, sort of cool if you think about it. I mean, people ask me what the ISS sort of meant to me, and to me, it means we, as a global community, sort of speak similar languages in terms of interfaces in space. And this is sort of the culmination of it, where there's now an international docking standard that anyone can sort of, if they participate in the standards, they can have interchangeable vehicles in space. So it's a great concept. Of course, they're going to expand the docking ports on the International Space Station too. Formerly shuttle only docked to the Node 2 forward port. They're going to open up the Node 2 Zenith port. So it'll become somewhat like the mirror image of the Russian segment, where you have vehicles that can dock to the rear and to the bottom. We're going to be on the front and on the top. So it's going to look like a port in space.
Is one designated, Boeing, or it just depends what's open when you ready to fly?
The government has given both of the service providers the docking system. So they say use this. So they, in theory, should be interchangeable between each of the SpaceX and Boeing.
The actual port you go to,
we have not been assigned it. We haven't said yours is Node 2 forward and yours is Node 2 nadir. They're supposed to be interchangeable to us, which makes sense, because if we go back to a kind of a direct handover concept where two vehicles are there at the same time, we could potentially both be there at the same time.
So it'd be expected to be autonomous docking, though, right?
Yes.
Is that cool for a pilot who would prefer to be pulling the shuttle in or something? Or?
Well, I'll tell you what, that is the one element of our flight software that I think we have working pretty well. And let's say if the autonomy doesn't work, we're ready to take over at a moment's notice. And it flies really well. And of course, it is a requirement that we back up the autonomy. But I think what you'll find is the pilot is really going to be, it's sort of like a Cat 1 approach in an airliner. Most airliners, they sort of go all the way down to the ground just about themselves, and the pilot's there as a backup. And I think the whole idea, behind this is a very similar principle, where the autonomous, and it does alleviate the crew of a lot of training requirements. They don't have to be proficient in just about everything, but they can take over if they need to.
You certainly see that with Soyuz from time to time.
Right. Every once in a while, they'll dock a Soyuz manually, and the crew does just fine. But normally it works off the Cruise system, and an autonomous dock. So.